Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier.
There is Lee Oswald. He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot.
That's one small step for man.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Welcome to the Howdy Boomer Show on the YouTube channel. This is a daily broadcast by baby boomers for baby boomers. Join the Peanut Gallery, become an official member of HowdyBoomy.com, where there's great gifts and ideas for the baby boomer generation. And we're going to be talking daily about things that affect everyday life. Like, we're going to be driving gas cars rather than worried about charging someplace to take half of our life getting there. We're going to be cooking with gas rather than whatever the woke generation wants us to cook with. We're going to be worried about climate change, but unlike John Kerry, who looks like the love child between Secretariat and Jerry Seinfeld, we're going to be letting Mother Nature take care of that. We're going to go back to the days when the good guys were the cops, the bad guys were the criminals. We're going back to the days when if you were born with a penis, you were a male. If you were born with a vagina, you were a female. Every day we're going to be broadcasting ideas that's going to help make America great again. And we're going to be bringing everybody to the forefront to remember what made this country great. In the days of the old laughing, every day we're going to sock it to them.
Sock it to me?
Welcome to the Howdy Boomy Show. Today is Friday. Coming on a nice weekend. Hopefully everybody's going to have a great weekend. Everybody stays healthy, have fun, have decent weather. This election season coming up is going to be unbelievable, both on the Democratic and Republican side. We see the Republicans tearing each other apart as normal. And I just think, this is just my opinion, Donald Trump is in the lead now. The Democratic Party and the media are trying to destroy him to make sure he does not either get on a ballot, winds up in jail, whatever it is. But even if he were to run on a third party, there are 30% of the people in this country that absolutely adore him. They like the way he governed, they're going to vote for him. So it's going to be very interesting Republican side nomination on what's going on. The Democrats, God knows what's going to happen there, because day by day, every day, you realize that Joe Biden has no clue. Joe Biden is not running this country. And I think that's one of the great mysteries, is who's behind the curtain pulling the strings, just like the Wizard of Oz. And the way he's governing, the way he acts as though he hates America, he hates the people of the working class. You would think that people from the Obama administration, the holdovers, are going to running him, they're telling him what to do, because I don't think he had an original thought in his life. He's a plagiarist. He's been convicted of that. He's got hair plugs. What does that tell you? So it's just, his family is corrupt, and sooner or later that's going to come out. But the thing that happens there is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is polling 20%. And the more and more he starts to speak, then better and better he is becoming to hear to some of the Democrats. He's got the name, and I just hope nothing happens to him. Because going back to the days of when, coming up on the first ever baby boomer ability to vote in a national election was 1968. And I cast my vote for Hubert Humphrey, a Democrat, being an old Chicago Democrat, Mayor Daley. I hope nothing happens to him as his father was assassinated. I know the Secret Service, in speaking with them, they protect the president and vice president. They protect the Speaker of the House, the head of the Senate, all members of the Supreme Court. And at that time, they also protected Ted Kennedy. Why? Because his last name was Kennedy, and his two brothers were assassinated. So I hope there aren't any idiots around like there were back then. Of course, now looking at the mass shootings you have every day, especially in Chicago, my hometown, which is now a jungle, I just hope nothing happens, that everything remains fairly calm, and let the political process work out. Speaking of Chicago, I remember the Democratic Convention in 1968, and I knew a lot of Chicago policemen back then. And it was a Thursday, and every day there were riots, there were demonstrations, because out-of-town people came here to protest the Vietnam War, everything that was going on, Hubert Humphrey. And police cars were now manned by 4 officers instead of just 2. And I remember one indication where they were riding in Old Town and people stormed a police car, welded the door shut, and started it on fire. That tells you what kind of people were coming to Chicago to protest. And I remember it was a Thursday, and I was overlooking Grant Park, sitting there having dinner with a girl. Had a 3-piece suit on. She was dressed nice. We were in the Prudential building in the city of Chicago, which at that time was the tallest building. Had a rotating restaurant. We were overlooking Grant Park. We could see the Conrad Hilton Hotel, which is where Hubert Humphrey and Edmund Muskie stayed. We could see the International Amphitheater where the Democratic Convention was, because both were lit up by helicopters flying all around. So we had the Grant Park where most of the demonstrators were right below us. And on that Thursday, the Democratic Party inside the convention center voted down the peace plank. And at that point in time, the demonstrators started urinating on the American flag, and that's what broke the backs of the Chicago Police Department. When they saw that, they went nuts and just started beating on people, because they have been taking 4 days of abuse every day from the protesters. I remember taking 2 buses to work that week, and no matter where there was green space in the city of Chicago, there were bivouacked troopers, army, any kind of military complication you could have. They were bivouacked on any green space in the city. So it was that just absolutely amazing. It was like you were on a military base. And in Chicago, Mayor Daley, who was revered as a god, there still is, ran the city with an iron hand, and that was just an indication of where the Democratic Party was headed after that. I see now, here's how you could feel better about yourself. You think about people in power, you think about people who are famous, and I just heard Britney Spears say, I love going overseas, especially places like Canada. Isn't that something? I mean, I don't know where she learned her geography from. Evidently, to her, the earth is still flat, but it was sort of amazing to me that someone in power like that could say overseas is Canada. Crazy. And now we have, on a Friday, our Schiffhead of the Week, named after Adam Schiff, who is probably one of the biggest liars, biggest idiots in Congress, running for Senate. Dianne Feinstein's seat in the state of California. God bless the people in California. If you vote for this guy, you deserve everything you get. But the Schiffhead of the Week, there are a lot of people you could go to. You could go to Mark Zuckerberg, who took a family portrait of himself, his wife, and his kids, but he had the kids' faces covered up so nobody could recognize them. Now here's a guy who uses Facebook to pry into your life, track you all over the place. But no, you can't take a picture of my kids. I don't want you to know anything about me. You would think what's good for the goose is good for the gander, but no. Well, Zuckerberg didn't make it. He made the finals. You had Cori Bush, who on the 4th of July professed to hate America. Her and another one of her cohorts from what they call the Gang of Five blasted America. They're race conscious, they're white people happy, the blacks are suppressed, yada, yada, yada. But you always notice that the people who hate this country, the people who protest the most, are people who have got the most money, and they don't have to worry about where their next buck is coming from. So Cori Bush and all these people who are in government bemoaning the United States, you're biting the hand that feeds you. And that would be great if one of these days they just stop paying her, because I think her total compensation for a junior congressman, and maybe even she's more than that now, is probably somewhere around $250,000. Stop getting the paychecks and see what you think about America then. Where else are you going to go and make the money that you're making now that enables you to deflate what this country is standing for, which is one of the reasons people still love Donald Trump, because he was the last American president since God knows when. It wasn't Obama. It's not Biden. That really loves the country he's president of. And that's probably why people are still holding him near and dear to their hearts, because during the first 2 years of administration before COVID, before the media ganged up on him, before everybody tried to kill him, this was one of the greatest countries, still is, but the economy was booming. We were respected overseas, which is totally opposite right now. But our Schiffhead of the week goes to Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Now, here are people who have made fortunes, billions of dollars, bemoaning the United States of America because we took the land from indigenous people. We must give it back to them. Well, why don't you start? Give back your factories. Give back the cows that give you milk. Well, how can you possibly say that? How do you know that because people were here, it was their land? I just don't understand that. Everything has gone great for this country. The Boston Tea Party signalized what was going on in Europe, and we became independent. The greatest country in the world is still trying to get in here. They're massing the borders. You don't see that anywhere else in the world. And Ben & Jerry hates it. Why? Because they got all the money in their pocket. They don't care. They could say what they want. The hell with Ben & Jerry's. They got a lousy ice cream. They got a lousy philosophy. But they made our Schiffhead of the week. Have a great weekend, dear. People, it's a great country. Enjoy the country. Celebrate the United States of America. Celebrate your family. Celebrate the great freedoms that we have. Hope to see you next week. Have a great weekend. God bless you. God bless America.